Hey, good morning. Mid-Morning Money brought to you by Bain O'Leary, Minnesota's retirement experts. And on a Monday morning, we check in with our friend Dale Kurschner, Minneapolis-based business analyst and advisor, talking about business news and how it affects us here in the Twin Cities and surrounds. Good morning, Dale. How you doing?
Great, John. How about yourself?
Good. Let's talk about a couple of things here. A number of things in the news. Let's start with this. This is always perplexing how a market can be down the way it is today, some 395 points, yet a company like Target, their stock continues to be up. What sets that apart?
You know, they've had some really good financial results lately, and we've talked before about how Brian Cornell, the CEO, has invested $7 billion in that company over the course of probably the last 4 or 5 years, pretty aggressively. And you know, that kind of thing, when you put that much money into stuff and you come out with 12 new brands and you redo all these stores, it creates this momentum that keeps going even when the markets go down. And so what we're seeing there is investors kind of look for stocks to put their money into while it's, you know, everything else is dropping. Target's a good place to invest in right now as they think that this stock will continue to go up because Target is really doing well right now with its momentum. And even if the stock market goes down, the business of Target is doing well.
Yeah, indeed. It's something just interesting to watch here. You know, and Cornell recently said, too, when talking about the tariffs, that they can withstand, a certain amount of this, whether it's 34 or maybe $50 billion worth of tariffs on Chinese goods coming in, and that they're positioned to handle much of that. But if it continues to ramp up, then they will be in a more difficult spot.
Yeah, and I don't believe Target's going to be affected by the tariff situation as much as some of the other companies can be. And so, you know, it depends, too, in terms of sourcing. I mean, there's so many countries that Target sources from now, and other companies are more dependent on either what's going on just in the European Union or what's going on just in China. But Target is sourcing, when it comes to their fabrics and what they do from the clothing side, they really have that pegged really well in terms of diverse sourcing.
Yeah, indeed. So, you know, another story, too, that I thought was a good story for you to share, as long as we were on this topic, the question asking here, will the U.S. soybean market be hurt as bad as was originally thought? Will Minnesota soybeans take a big hit if China tariffs proceed?
Friday's story in the Star Tribune did a really good job of talking about how, you know, there are things like from Purdue University and other sources that say, boy, this could really have a huge impact on soybean growers here in Minnesota. I think it's gigantic in terms of how much we produce here. But then there was a gentleman who spoke to a group in North Dakota recently in Jamestown. The Duluth News Tribune story had kind of talked about that. And interesting. There are people out there that say, you know, even if these tariffs go into effect, there are not enough soybeans in the world to make up for the U.S. soybeans that are going to China right now. So while you can look at this tariff situation and say, wow, the sky is going to fall, the flip side is, can other countries create enough soybean production to make up for U.S. soybeans not going to China? So, you know, it's kind of one of those things where a lot of rhetoric, a lot of concern, a lot of fear, but you really don't know sometimes how things pan out until about a year after these things take effect.
Yeah, indeed. There's a lot of stories going around today, a lot of people reporting on this story that just broke this morning as U.S.-based Harley-Davidson announced that they are going to be moving some of their operations to overseas because of the plans to shift in place this tariff that would impact them for goods being sent. The EU put this on for goods from America going there. They included, you know, Kentucky whiskeys, Kentucky bourbons, I should say, peanuts, and Harley-Davidsons as things that would have a tariff placed on them. It's kind of a surprising move, I think.
Yeah, it is, and it also makes sense. You know, if you're making products that you're going to ship there and you're being told that there's going to be a tariff on those products, it just makes common sense to say, okay, well, we'll just make them over there. You know, you do away with the shipping costs as well. So there are going to be so many things like this, John, in terms of unintended consequences, especially if this continues to go tit for tat. You know, we have now President Trump today saying that he's going to recommend that we restrict Chinese investment in U.S. technology companies. If a Chinese firm has 25% or more ownership in an entity, that entity cannot then buy a technology company here in the United States. A lot of reasons for that and a lot of reasons against it. But then on the flip side, you're going to be like, okay, well, will the Chinese come back with next? So it
Yeah.
just keeps going.
Yeah, it does. It's going to be interesting to see how far it goes here. Tell me a little bit about MC Cubed and the Duluth Entrepreneur, with their temperature control monitoring product.
Fun idea, just this kid from up in northern Minnesota comes up with these entrepreneurial ideas. One is kind of this device where you go into your cabin and you can just look at your freezer. And there's this little indicator that'll tell you, hey, guess what? The power went out while you were gone, and everything that's still in this freezer and refrigerator is shot. Don't eat it. Another thing he's come up with is a smaller product that can be placed on products and shipment containers very inexpensively. And it quickly will tell people if the temperature went below or above the point it's supposed to be maintained at. A lot of times when you're shipping something in a truck or 3 days of shipping, you don't know if that temperature, if it was supposed to be below like 20 degrees, you don't know if that temperature ever rose to maybe 30 or 40 degrees and then went back down to 20. What he's done is he's created this low-priced product that can just quickly tell people if that temperature ever went above it.
Interesting. Back to the idea, too, of let's say you have a lake home somewhere and your power's been out, but you don't know for how long. So you don't know, because it might be back on by the time you get there. You don't know if things inside your refrigerator or freezer actually had a chance to go bad. A device like that would be quite handy, because there was more than one time I was concerned about that.
Yeah, and Nathan Lipinski is the guy who's come up with this. And, yeah, it's great because of that. And then also he's saying, you think about shipping Ebola vaccines, or what's Amazon trying to do to make sure that things are shipped and maintained fresh the whole time. So it's a potentially gigantic marketplace, and he's just getting going with this. He's taking a year off of school to see what he can do with it. So it's a fun story out of Duluth, and yet another sign of innovation here in Minnesota.
Yeah, indeed. What is, and am I saying this correctly, what is Uponor? Or am I saying that, is that how you say it? Uponor?
We never quite knew a Twin Cities business. I think we just went with Uponor.
Uponor, okay. Uponor sounds better.
You might have it right, but, in Minnesota, you got to say oop. But, yeah, it's fascinating when you think about water pipes inside buildings. They typically were copper in the past, then they went to PVC and CPVC, the plastic rigid stuff. Uponor makes a flexible plastic tube that is used to put in water supplies, mainly in commercial buildings. So when you think about it, they can create these rolls of flexible tubing to put in water supplies up to your office buildings and through your apartment buildings, where in the past you used to have to buy 10-foot pieces of rigid pipe and either solder them or glue them. So it's a much faster way to install water supply in buildings. They're based here in Minnesota. They're U.S. headquarters. They're the largest type of producer of this product in the United States, and they're growing by leaps and bounds. I mean, they just opened up this Hutchinson factory that they renovated, and that's after they've expanded 10 times already here in the Twin Cities. So it's a great success story, 750 jobs and growing.
Yeah, I would say that's absolutely impressive, Dale. I'm wondering, just as you're describing this product too, if it's something that I could use if for running pipe to an area where it's all enclosed. I mean, if it's more flexible than trying to run, a 10-foot piece of rigid pipe and then having to open the ceiling or whatever wall, whatever it may be here, rather than be able to make a connection by snaking a plastic pipe down there.
Absolutely. And it's also, they first came up with this product to do heated floors. And then over the years, they perfected it so you could have drinking water go through it. They're now using it for underground piping, too. You go down, 3 or 4 feet. If you get a little bit of frost or a little bit of freezing, Uponor's product is flexible enough so it could actually freeze a little bit and it won't burst.
Yeah.
Whereas the rigid ones do. So a lot of things, it is now in the residential market, not Uponor's product, but there's a version like it. And it's been approved by all the states from a code perspective where you can use these flexible tubes now for your water supply in your homes or your cabins.
Yeah, well, great to know. Hey, thank you so much for this visit this morning. I hope that we'll have a chance to chat again next Monday here on WCCO.
Sounds good, John. Have a great week.
You too. Dale Kurschner again, Minneapolis-based business analyst and advisor here on WCCO. It is 10:47. That's your Lindus Construction time check. Time to improve the look of your home with Leaf Guard brand gutters.